Men ready for commitment always do this, and we're going to share 5 things additionally that they do to demonstrate that they want a commitment. So, what makes a man suddenly commit? Is there a secret? I think women tend to be more conditioned to commitment, and men on some level seek freedom. But there's a deeper truth in play, and that's what I want to explore with everybody today. The reality is dating over 45 years old, and since many of you who follow my channel know, I'm a midlife dating and relationship coach. And I say midlife is after baby making years and before retirement. So roughly a population between the ages of 42 and 69. Is dating at this stage is radically different than those that are in their 20s and 30s. Kids, it's funny, I'm saying kids in their 20s and 30s. They're oftentimes seeking relationships where they might eventually make babies and raise a family, whereas many of us in the over 45 category, roughly 75% of singles in the dating marketplace are divorced. And so for divorced people, not only is there the emotional effects of divorce, many people after they hit that midlife point, that midlife crisis point, emerges collective wounds, the wounds of childhood, the wounds of maybe going through a traumatic divorce. And because of that, we're dealing with a completely different population from the vantage point of relationship readiness. Bump, 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 relationship readiness. We're going to look at how that is today, or how that evolves today, particularly for those of us folks that are over 45 years old. But we have to examine, how do people meet in the dating marketplace today? You see, it's radically different than it was 50, 60, 100 years ago. 50, 60, 100 years ago, your primary place of meeting someone was maybe your school of origin, or maybe your college, maybe your professional capacity at work, maybe it was church, maybe you got fixed up by friends, maybe you actually knew the person because you grew up with them. Well, certainly times have changed. In the last 20 years, do you know what's taken over? You know what's taken over: online dating sites and social media. It has skyrocketed to the fact that the roughly 65% of all singles are meeting their potential mate through an online connection. And you see, online is a great tool for connecting. I know you complain about it. I know you're frustrated, and for very good reason in many cases. But at the end of the day, it's still a great tool for connecting and meeting people. But it's also a breeding ground for those individuals I mentioned before that are wounded. And because the population of singles over 45s are predominantly wounded on some level, have done little or no healing from their childhood wounds or those adult traumas. They have leaky energy. They need therapy rather than a date or relationship. And sadly, online dating, connecting through our devices, makes it easy to connect with people. Other people are wounded. What's happening is wounded people are talking to one another all day long. And what's fascinating to me? Beside the fact that online dating has created an environment where you could hook up physically rather easily, because now sex is rather easy to obtain. There's no real leap or entry to the barrier to entry is rather low. But the other part of that breeding ground for online dating, and again, I believe it's a great tool for meeting people, but it's a breeding ground to get sucked into the fact that you might become a de facto therapist for a person. Did you hear that? A de facto therapist. I will tell you, a lot of wounded, lonely people are connecting with each other online on a regular basis just to replace what should be addressed with a therapist, a really good coach, somebody from a spiritual perspective. That's what I think they should be doing. That's my should. But humans can do whatever they want. And so what's happened is, instead of seeking genuine improvement in their life, they look for a date or a relationship to fill that hole inside of them. I need you to complete me inside of them. And no wonder many of you feel frustrated. And certainly because of that, you've observed a lot of men who are commitment phobic, who are unavailable for a relationship. But I'm going to give you some clues. If you really, I'm going to encourage you to pay attention to what I'm going to share with you today, because these clues will give you insight as to whether or not a man is relationship ready, or at least he's demonstrating readiness, versus those that are going to treat you like what I call a placeholder. If you haven't seen my chart before, I haven't shown it in a while, the 3 types of people actively dating, and please note the bottom, this is not a fact, it's merely an opinion. I believe roughly 20% of the population are what I call users. They seek short-term game. They're love bombers. They're players. They're gold diggers. They're entitled, selfish people. They only care about their own needs. That could be more than 20%. I'm just making up these numbers. And roughly 60% of the population are what I call spenders. They seek companionship, connection, and sex. They seek their lives are distracted. They have a fearful attachment style or a needy attachment style. They have a dysfunctional life. And the reason why they're called spenders is they'll spend time with you as a placeholder. But I know many of you are seeking that 20%. And by the way, 20% might be a generous number. But the grower builders, those are the people that genuinely seek relationship. They seek long-term commitment, emotionally grown up, good relationship skills, and they have their act together. Did you hear that? Good relationship skills. You know what the fantasy is? You know what's funny? Many of you watching this probably think you have good communication skills. Do you know the vast majority of good communication skills, particularly in relationships? You know, there's a couples therapist on HBO. I can't think of her name right now, but the show is called Couples Therapy. And she said, this is what happens when couples come in. Men and women come in, and this is what they do. The man points the finger at the woman, and the woman points the finger at the man. They're not pointing the finger at themselves as being the problem. And particularly when it comes to communication skills, you know, this is something I've been practicing for a decade and a half of good communication skills. And I literally go to school for this every day in the profession that I'm in. Most human beings have poor relationship skills, poor communication skills, and yet they think they're above it all. See, it requires maybe doing a little bit work. And if you're watching this, I'm telling you, you're in it too. We have to, that's the delusion. Everybody thinks they're outside of the rule. And I'm saying you are the rule. Very few people actually have good communication skills to decipher those who are capable of relationships. And I'm sorry to burst your bubble here, but it's going to require being a detective, because we're swimming in a sea of emotional immaturity and poor relationship skills. This is why I teach discernment as my private coaching. And if you want to connect with me, there's links below to schedule a discovery call with me to see if working with a coach is right for you. So we're talking about that 20%, that grower builder. Those men do exist. And do you know what they all have in common? Bump, 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 bump. You know what they all have in common? They want commitment. They want commitment. They don't say, I want a relationship. They say, I want a committed relationship. You see, when you hear from a man or a woman, I want a relationship, you know what that is? Wah, 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 wah. There's no context to it. What does a relationship look like? What does it mean to you? I want you to write that down. Someone write that in the chat box. What does a relationship look like for you? What does commitment mean to you? Like, these are the questions you should be asking someone. And by the way, that grower builder man, that man ready for commitment, he's already done that. He knows exactly he wants a life partner. Now, I recognize that a lot of people in midlife, they're gun shy. They've been burned in their past relationships. They're fearful. They have unresolved issues in their lives. You can weed those people out like that by simply asking some really good questions in the early stage of dating. But Jonathan, I'm just supposed to sit my feminine energy and let men lead because that's what I'm being told to do. I just let men lead because men are such good leaders of relationship. Grower builders are good at it. Most everybody, the 80% of population men, they're not good at it. So here's the thing. You're rolling the dice hoping that the guy you're with is what I call a grower builder, rather than speculating. Why not weed them out by making them jump through a few hoops of asking some direct questions? But Jonathan, I'm told I'm not supposed to do that because that's an interview. Folks, I'm here to tell you, in the dating marketplace, you should be interrogating people. Interrogation. Do you know what interrogation means? It means getting to the truth. Now, here's the thing. You know what? If you've actually ever watched a genuine detective interrogate, they build rapport, they connect with the potential suspect, they ask probing questions, they build some familiarity with that person, and little by little, they drill down. But Jonathan, dating should just be so simple. It's supposed to be a fantasy, just like every book I read and every movie and every Disney I saw. That's the way it should be. Yeah. Magic fairy dust is supposed to come from the ground and make us just magically, we deserve somebody in our life. That's the fantasy, folks. And many of you are living in that fantasy of belief. And I'm here to say that it's time to wake up. You have a choice. You can be empowered, particularly those ladies watching. You can be empowered in your life. I know you don't want to be a detective, but you know what? Learning some skills, by the way, your relationship is probably the most important thing in your life, other than maybe you're making babies, raising children, what I mean, or maybe your professional life. The person you choose will directly affect your life. So learning these skills are rather important. I recommend reading this book. Maybe many of you should be reading this book, How to Be an Adult in Relationships. This way you can spot those people a lot easier. So, what are the 5 things all men do who are commitment ready? Well, let's start with number 1. And by the way, this is in no particular order. He leads with emotional transparency. Someone write this down. He leads with emotional transparency. It's not a mystery with him when you're communicating with him. A commitment-ready man isn't playing it cool. He's not playing the detached game. He'll share his fears, past mistakes, even his shame. Not to trauma dump, not to floodlight, but to invite trust. Think of how you've opened up about your parenting regrets or anxiety. And I'm talking about me. I'm talking about my parenting regrets and my anxiety. That's a way of opening up. Floodlighting is dumping, trauma dumping on a person. I'm not suggesting that. But like little by little, like pouring a glass of water slowly, when he shares his past fears, his mistakes, his shame even, that's designed to build trust with you. That's designed not to suck you in, but to allow you to enter his life. His life. He leads with emotional transparency. It's not this playing it cool game. Oh, and when you ask those poignant questions, he doesn't run away from it. He leans into it. See, that's what a commitment-ready man does. Excuse me. So as I've shared with you before, I have anxiety. I tell women, I've told women very early on in the dating process, I struggle with international travel. It's actually something I'm going to stop saying that, because in truth, the last time I went internationally, it wasn't that bad. But I share it just to open up that, and I think this was birthed out of COVID. I became an agoraphobe. I don't know if you felt the same way, but I became a bit of an agoraphobe after COVID. I wanted to be, my friends say I would like to be in my safe 5-mile bubble, but I'm breaking free from that. But I share that with someone just to give them some insight into who I am. Okay, number 2, he doesn't just talk about his future. He makes room for you in his future. He makes room for you in his future. He's not spouting about his 5-year plan while keeping you as a side note. If he's serious, he's saying things like, look, let's take a trip together this fall, or I'd like you to meet my closest people in my life. He's integrating you into his life, his plans for the future. By the way, I'm yelling just because I'm passionate, but he's opening you up to his life. He sees it beyond the days right in front of you, but the week ahead, a month ahead, 3 months ahead. He's thinking along those lines. That's a man who genuinely wants to commit to you. And if that's not happening and you've been together for 6 months, a year, 2 years, 5 years, ladies, let me tell you something. Let me interrupt my scheduled broadcast in the sense of what my notes say. Look, after 3 months, if that penis is going inside the vagina on a Regina, is this Deadpool? If the penis is going inside the vagina on a regular basis, you have every right to find out, where's this relationship going? What do you see in a future? But sadly, many of you ladies have this over your mouth. Duct tape. And by the way, I recognize it's difficult to communicate our fears, but you know what? What I mean by duct tape is you're afraid that you will scare him away. Don't be afraid of scaring away, because the person who runs away is not your guy. By the way, if you've ever read my book, What the Heck is Self-Love Anyway? A Journey of Personal Development, Self-Help, Spiritual Work. Chapter 1, Speak Your Truth. Do it with kindness. Chapter 9, if it's sincere and from the heart, you can't say the wrong thing to the right person. I'm telling you, ladies, if you're having regular sex with a man, then just speak from your heart. If he runs away, he's not your guy. He's not your guy. Number 3, he owns his past without being defined by it. He owns his past without being defined by it. Whether it's a divorce, financial collapse, or grief, he's done the inner work. He's not still blaming his ex, avoiding tough conversations. He's integrated the pain, not projecting it. And by the way, folks, many of you know who followed me. I lost a child. By the way, there's a picture of Connor on his graduation shortly before he passed away. I don't hide my pain. I've leaned into it. I own it. It doesn't define who I am. I got wiped out in the market crash. It doesn't define who I am. Certainly those wounds on some level have helped me see things in a way that I couldn't otherwise have seen. But I am not defined by my past, and I will own my wounds. And a man who's genuinely serious about a relationship will do the same. He owns his past without being defined by it, and he doesn't blame his past relationships or his marriage on the other person. He takes ownership. And when you hear things like she was a narcissist, she was an alcoholic, she was a bad mother, I don't care if she had 90, maybe she had a majority to blame, even if it's up to 97%. If he doesn't take 3% ownership, and I like how Catherine Woodward Thomas talks about that, 3%, then that guy, he's blaming someone else and taking very little accountability in his life. Most likely hasn't done the inner work. Number 4, he prioritizes repair over being right. You know, here in the United States, we are suckling on the nipple of I'm right and you're wrong when there's a disagreement going on. A commitment-ready man, he doesn't ghost. He doesn't stonewall. He doesn't get defensive when the stuff hits the fan. He might flinch, but he comes back with humility. I'm kind of guilty of that. I flinch a lot, but he comes back with humility. And he might come back and say, hey, that didn't land well. Can we talk? That didn't land well. Can we talk? He prioritizes repair because he recognizes that humans have differences. Only an emotionally grown-up person can view the world this way. And I got to tell you something. None of you ladies watching are you this picnic either. I know you have the fantasy that you're above it all, but many of you are just as bad as men. You operate from a place of I'm right and he's wrong. And lastly, number 9, he's done chasing chemistry. I can relate to this one. He now chooses compatibility. He's not running on fumes or sexual attraction or fantasy anymore. He knows that deep partnership is built on shared values, blendable lifestyles, emotional maturity, emotional safety, and spiritual resonance. He's not chasing highs. He's rooted in something sustainable. He's done chasing chemistry. Boy, I think I chased chemistry a majority of my life. You know, when a relationship ready man shows up, he shows up grounded, steadfast, confident. Not fully confident. We all have fears and insecurities, but he's confident in the fact that he wants commitment. And yet, sadly, many of you are going, where are these men? Where are these men? Where are these men? Well, guess what? You're swiping left on a lot of these guys too, because they don't look handsome. They're not 6 foot tall. They're balding, they're pudgy. And many of you are still holding out for the Henry Cavills, the Mr. Biggs of Sex and the City, you know, the George Clooney's of the world. And let's face it, folks, for those of us over 45, we don't look like we did, but we seem to be dating with younger eyes. It's time for the wake-up call, and that's what this video is about. I'm not here to sugarcoat this shit. I'm here to say, if you really want a life partner, then you have to put some gigantic effort in making it happen, because it's the most important decision you'll most likely make in your life. And if you need some support with that, I'll help you with that. By the way, did you find value in this conversation? Did this help at all? I'd like to hear your thoughts. Post a comment below. I do my best to read them all in the first 24 hours. As always, if you find value in my videos, please hit that like button. Please share this video. Please subscribe to my channel. Hit that notification bell so you can be notified of new videos. And if you want to connect with me directly, schedule a discovery call with me to see if working with a coach is right for you. There's links to join my group called Midlife Love Mastery. There's a link to follow me on Instagram. You can get the books I recommend. And also, scroll down and find my dating vows. This is essential conversations you want to have with someone before that penis ever gets inside the vagina, ladies. Go to that link, Dating Vows. I guarantee it will change your life. All right, those who know my live format know it's time for Q&A. If you have a question, there's a little chat box in the corner. Write the word question and then post the question thereafter. Or you can purchase a super sticker, super chat. All the monies from the super sticker, super chat goes to a scholarship fund. Again, in my name of my son, Connor Aslay. That's a picture of him right there. Graduation picture. He's my son who passed away 7 years ago last week. In his honor, we donate to causes like the Hoffman Process Insight Institute and scholarships to coaching as well. And our goal tonight is $50. We'd appreciate some love for the Connor Aslay Scholarship Fund. And again, there's a little dollar sign there, or you can purchase a super thanks if you're watching the replay. All right. Let's questions. Write the word question, post their question thereafter, or you can jump on the Love Seat live and speak to me directly. It'll be recorded, but we can have a good time chatting about this. Hey, Debbie is kind to share with us a $20 super sticker. I find value in this video. I could give thumbs up. I would give 11, more than 11. Oh, wait, is it 11? More than one, I would. Thank you so much, Debbie. What a sweetheart. Debbie is one of, I gotta give some props to this lady. I am so grateful for your kindness, your care, your support. You've donated so much to the Connor Aslay Scholarship Fund. And let me just tell you, it's gone to good causes, but more importantly, it's helped people get coaching who couldn't otherwise afford it. So Debbie, thank you so much for that. I really appreciate it. All right, if you have a question, write the word question, then post the question thereafter. In the meantime, I've got a list of questions that came in while we're waiting for questions. So let's see. I've always believed chemistry had to be instant, but lately I'm wondering, can chemistry actually grow over time with emotional connection? I've always believed chemistry had to be instant, but I'm wondering, can chemistry grow over time with emotional connection? Well, I have a confession to make with everybody. Well, first off, I'm going to answer that question, yes. Chemistry can grow over time. What is chemistry? Chemistry is brain chemicals chemicals from our brain being released, oftentimes dopamine, testosterone, estrogen, serotonin. That makes us feel good. Now, sometimes those chemicals are triggered by childhood wounds or adult traumas, believe it or not. We might find ourselves thinking we have chemistry with someone, healthy emotional chemistry, when it's actually something unhealthy in our life. But the question, what happens when you feel no chemistry for someone? Now, let me just say this. If you go on a date with somebody, and please forgive me if this is an insult for anyone, if they've got a beer gut the size of Texas and they're missing their front teeth and you are just grossed out and you'd never have sex with them, then don't follow my instructions today, okay? But if you go, God, I'm not feeling it for them, but they're not unattractive. You're not feeling it for them. They're not unattractive. Then I'd say give it a shot. In fact, I have a personal share with everybody because this happened to me about 6-7 weeks ago. I actually had a date with a woman where our first date, there wasn't chemistry. Now, what I mean by there wasn't chemistry, for whatever reason, I felt like neutrality over this person. I wasn't feeling it for this person. I just wasn't feeling this instant pull like I have in the past. Now, as I reflect on my past relationships, those instant pulls were oftentimes my anxious attachment style, picking up on the avoidant attachment style from someone, and that's what drew me to the other person. And I suspect vice versa. But in this particular case, we had a 5-hour breakfast date overlooking the marina at a restaurant, mostly a coffee date. And we had this great conversation, but there was no chemistry. And what's kind of interesting is we end up talking on the phone 2 days later, and I confessed I wasn't feeling a connection. And she said she wasn't feeling a connection. And we're like, boy, that's kind of strange. We're both relatively attractive people. You know, we both have so much in common. We had a 5-hour conversation. We were having a great time. We went on to spend the next 5 hours on the phone unpacking why this happened. So then we started talking on the phone. We figured, let's just be friends. We'll help each other in the dating marketplace. But we got to share a bit about our lives. And the more I began communicating with her, the more I realized I like this person. I like this person. And we kept talking every day, a little by little. Oh my God. By the way, she and I can talk for hours. She is like my mirror. She will unpack things more than I do. It cracks me up. She's like my mirror. We have so much fun. She's into personal development, self-help, spirituality. She's into all the things I'm into. And it turns out we have many mutual friends. In fact, I called some of my friends to say, what do you know about her? And they ranted and raved about how wonderful she was. And she did the same thing. And my friend or those friends said the same thing about me. But there was no chemistry. And I was kind of surprised. And we were talking about this. Well, guess what? About 8 days later, we end up meeting up. And in that moment, I just gave her a big, gigantic kiss because I thought she's this amazing human being. And all of a sudden, the chemistry emerged. I'm serious. The chemistry emerged. Now, I felt like I had permission. It wasn't like I did some Me Too type of thing. I felt an invitation. But little by little, we were building an emotional connection over the phone over about a week and a half, speaking hours upon hours a day. And we're not trivial stuff, not the, how's your day going? Did you have a good day? I hope you had a good day. None of that crap. It was more like we were sharing about our past experiences. We were sharing about our fears, our insecurities. We were talking about our children. I was going through something kind of difficult with my son, and I was sharing it with her just because I thought she was going to be a friend in my life. But the more I communicated, the more I found myself attracted to who this person was. And little by little, for the last 6 weeks, we've spent a lot of time together. And might be that this could be the one. I don't know. You know what's interesting is we're honest with each other. We're vulnerable, authentic, and transparent with one another. And it started with no chemistry. It wasn't repulsiveness. It was like neutrality. And let me tell you why I think this happened on a spiritual level. I think this happened on a spiritual level to allow the emotional connection to catch up. And now the physical exists. And we're both very attracted to one another. So, you know what? I think we should be careful dismissing someone. And again, I wasn't repulsed by her. She wasn't repulsed by me. There was something, maybe there was something spiritual blocking us from moving towards each other from a sexual standpoint, but we moved towards each other on an emotional standpoint. In the last 6 weeks, she's become a very dear person in my life, a very dear friend. We'll see what happens. I do believe we have to get through the 3-month mark and the 9-month mark and that year mark, the 3-month, the 6-month, and the 9-month, I should say. I believe in breaking up in quarters because I think it can affect a relationship, and we're building those blocks together. Thankfully, she lives less, like 35 minutes away, so we're relatively close. We both have flexible lifestyles. We share the same values in many cases. We seem to have a flexible lifestyle. But what I dig about this person, and you know what it is, folks? I really, really like this person. Like, I like her. How many times have you looked at somebody and said, I'm attached to them, I'm attracted to them, but I don't necessarily like them. I like this person. Plus, she makes me laugh. Oh my God, we are constantly cracking up. We're cracking up at ourselves more than anything, but we're cracking up with each other. And so to come back to the question, I've always believed chemistry to be instant. I believe lust is instant. I believe limerence is instant. I think unhealthy attachment can be instant. But I think genuine heart connection is something that needs to be developed. It's not about falling in love. It's about rising to love. And by the way, love is a choice. Love is a choice. And you know what that choice is, I believe? I'm going to go a little deeper here right now. You know what I believe love is a choice? It's the choice to let go of the fears, to let go of the doubts, and to let go of the fantasy. And for those of us in midlife, many of us still have a fantasy realm. Let me just tell you, letting go of the fears, letting go of the doubts, letting go of the fantasy. That's the choice, is to let go of all of that and rise to love from a place of choice, not from a place of expectation. See, chemistry, the challenge with the chemistry narratives is you're already going like this to one another without really building the trust together. And trust is built through, folks, trust is built through social activities, hobbies, mutual interests, spending time with family and friends, traveling together, teamwork, building skills, both in your personal and your professional life, intimacy, both physical and emotional intimacy. That is how trust is built. And make no mistake, sex is an important part of the decision-making process. Do you remember the TV show Friends, Monica and Chandler? They had spent several years developing a strong friendship together. And when they were at Ross's wedding and found themselves in bed together, then all of a sudden it was like game on. Like the sex was the icing on the cake because they developed the core like for one another. They liked one another. They enjoyed talking to one another. That's how it should feel. It should feel like you're talking with your best friend. And if you're not feeling it in your body, if you're not feeling if you're not feeling excitement, not from an anxiety place, not from a butterfly type of place, but from a place of real enthusiasm, and most importantly, a place of curiosity. Do you know what I like about this person? She's radically curious. She always says, so Jonathan, I'm curious. I mean, literally every sentence starts with Jonathan, I'm curious. And one of the things she wrote in her dating profile that she wrote me, she said, people without curiosity lack imagination. I remember that was the hook when she said, people without curiosity lack imagination. This is why I'm such a big proponent to be curious in the early stage of dating, to ask those deeper questions early on. because that's how you build intimacy. And intimacy isn't about the penis and the vagina. Intimacy is into me you see. Was it Esther Perel who said that? I can't remember who first coined it. Into me you see. And so chemistry certainly can kickstart the engine, but chemistry is a weak indicator of relationship success. Emotional connection, developing that deep, rich friendship. That is the kickstarter to a healthy, happy relationship. And so there, I shared my personal life as of this day, July 2025. I'd like to hear your thoughts on what I just shared. Post a comment below. I do my best to read them all in the first 24 hours. As always, if you find value in my videos, please hit that like button. Please share this video. Please subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell. And again, if you want to connect with me, schedule a discovery call with me to see if working with a coach is right for you. Listed below. All right. I see a couple other questions. Janet posted a question. Any experience coaching women dating widowers? 4 months in a very intimate relationship. We date and go out, but I still haven't met his adult sons. How do I bring this up? I think widowers are complicated, just like widows. I think widows are complicated in the concept. It depends on how deeply in love he was with his wife, And also, I would say deeply in love with his wife, and it depends on how she passed away. I think it's really important. Was it sudden? Was it lingering? Something that might have taken years before she passed away is a little bit different versus someone sudden. And if he genuinely was in love with her, then I think it could be more problematic. I would wonder, does he have a lot of photographs around in the house? Are you sleeping in the same bed that his wife slept in? These are things I'd want to know. He's probably, now the question is, he could be codependent and he'll marry the first woman he's with. That certainly has been a historic possibility in many cases. Or is he just looking to play the field? The fact that you haven't met his family, it's been 4.5 months. You wrote this. Let me read this. The more time I spend with my guy, the better looking he gets. Our spark was immediate and he just keeps getting better and better. We get to know each other almost 4.5 months. Well, that's great that you're feeling more attraction. Jane has posted a comment. Janet, I married a widower. Tell him if hurt feelings. I hope he's been alone for 2 years and not dating so soon. Yes, coming back to that point, how long has it been when his spouse passed away? Oh, it looks like you responded to that. So, very in love, 33 years. She was ill, had no intimacy for 10 years. He had cleaned her stuff out, and he's buying a new bed since I came into the scene. Okay, so I would say roughly between the 3 and 6 month mark of spending time together would be a good time to start introducing friends and family. You certainly can do it sooner, but I would say between the 3 and 6 month mark, you're right at the 4 month mark. So have you suggested he meet any of your family or friends? Have you introduced any of that into the dynamic? You might want to lead by example at this point. And it looks like she passed away 3.5 years ago. Has he had any relationships in the last 3.5 years? Has he had what we call a transition relationship, 1 or 2 of those? It seems like it looks like he had met your kids. Okay. So is he avoiding introducing you to his children, or is it, if you talked about it and he's avoiding it, and now you got to keep in mind, his children love their mother. That's going to be a difficult thing for him to do if his children, it looks like you said he has dated. I'm the one, he says. I'm assuming he says, I love you, or that sort of thing. So, so just recognize that he might be a little bit reluctant because of his children, because their children love their mother. Depends on how old his children are. He was married for 33 years. I understand he didn't have intimacy for 10 of those years. That's very common. Okay, you go on to say, I think he wants to be sure I'm going to be around for a long time before he introduces me. You know, that's a very fair statement. I mean, what do you guys talk about? I mean, you guys have had sex, so what do you talk about the future? You know, folks, I believe couples should do the following. Someone write this down. Number one, talk about how you got here. Like, how did you get into this relationship where you feel happy? How did you get here? Number two, talk about the state of the union, where you're at. And number three, talk about where this relationship going. Ladies, if the penis is going inside the vagina on a regular basis, you should be talking about, how did we get here? Where are we? Where is this going? This should be regular conversation. You should be incessantly talking about this. But Jonathan, all the other dating coaches tell me don't do that. You're not supposed to pressure men. Men shouldn't be pressured. If he gets to have sex with you, you get to ask whatever you want. I'm yelling right now. Jane says, Jonathan, good ideas, communicate. Exactly. So, Janet, I want you to start asking him these questions. By the way, if he's a grown-up, if he's an emotional grown-up and he wants commitment, then he's not going to run away. Only the men who are fearful of commitment will run away from these questions. And I'm here to say, you know what? You have a greater chance of building real heart connection with someone when you're talking about your fears, your insecurities, your doubts. Share with him what's going on in your inner world. It will only scare the wrong guy away. If he is really legitimate, if he genuinely cares about you, do the two of you like each other? Do you like each other? I mean, do you know what folks, does anyone understand the concept of like? You see my mouth smiling? That's how you should feel. Not from a place of attraction, but from a place of like, I like who this person is. I like talking with them. They're fun to talk to, and you laugh and play together. Folks, if you're in midlife, at this point in our life, it's not about building our fortune. It's about enjoying life. Relationships should be a whole shitload of fun. And not from the sexual point of view. Well, Jonathan, we get together every Thursday night. We have a glass of wine. We have sex, and then I go home. That's not a relationship. That's a fuck buddy. And I know you didn't say that. I'm throwing that in there. But folks, coming back to the original question about widowers, you know, here, Janet has gone on to say, thank you. Been reluctant to say to this level all these things. Yes, I will take it on. Love my guy. We have a blast together. Well, that's awesome to hear. I'm excited to hear that. So coming back to widowers, simply this. There's a lot of it depends. When did his spouse pass away? Was he deeply in love? How long has it been since she passed away? Or did I say that? Why did she pass away? Was he deeply in love with her? I said that. How long has it been? Has he had a transition relationship? And is he genuinely serious about commitment? Those are things you need to find out. If you need some support with that, hey, schedule a discovery call with me to see if working with a coach is right for you. I've worked with a lot of women who have dated widowers, and I help them in that capacity. Did you find value in this part of this conversation? If you did, please hit that like button. Please share this video. Please subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell. And connect with me directly by scheduling, look at the links below and schedule a discovery call with me to see if working with a coach is right for you. All right, if you have a question, there's a little chat box in the corner. Write the word question, then post the question there after. Or you can purchase a super sticker, super chat. There's a little $sign in the chat box. All the monies from the super sticker, super chat goes to a scholarship fund in the name of my son, Connor Aslay. We'd appreciate some love. Okay, I saw another question. Cheryl is in the house. Why do avoidant men seem to be the only ones with a better sense of humor? Oh, I don't know. I'm an anxious person. I think I have a pretty darn good sense of humor. I don't know if I subscribe to avoidant men have better sense of humor. They might be, by the way, I think avoidants oftentimes have very dry, sarcastic humor, maybe is possible. But I don't subscribe to that they have better humor. That's kind of a better sense of humor. I will say this. Oftentimes, the more intellectual a person can be, they have a propensity to have great humor. My ex-wife's mother, she married a widower, as a matter of fact, when her and her husband got divorced. And he was an engineer, and I swear to God, he was he passed away. He's a practical joker. Oh my God, was he hilarious? Grandpa Ray. And Baby Ray is our nickname for him. But he was an engineer, and boy, did he have a wicked sense of humor, very practical joker kind of sense of humor. So yeah, I believe intellect can play a big role in humor. Not that they're better at humor, but if you look at most comedians, they have a genius mind. I think there's something about, okay, Cheryl goes on to say, yes, dry, sarcastic, very intellectual. Okay, got it. So, but I don't think it has anything to do with avoidant or has anything to do with avoidant attachment style. But, that was an interesting thought experiment. So I appreciate that a lot. So thanks, Cheryl. All right. If you have a question, write the word question and post the question thereafter. Or we'll go to the board right now. Let's see what we've got here. Okay, someone wrote in. After being hurt before, I'm struggling to stay open without feeling naive. How can I keep my heart open without letting fear run the show? Okay, so if you've been hurt before, I invite you to look at your past relationship and ask yourself, what positive things about yourself did you learn in this relationship? What positive things about yourself did you learn in this relationship? Number two, how have you healed from this relationship? How have you healed? How have you healed a childhood wound? How have you healed an adult wound? Like, invite yourself to look inward and say, how have I healed from this experience? Also, what was good about the relationship? But also what was bad about the relationship? Like, look at what was good about the relationship, but look at the things that weren't so good in the relationship. Reflect upon those things that weren't so good in the relationship. Genuinely reflect upon it. And last but not least, what are you most grateful for? Like, what are you grateful for in this relationship? Now, this is a relationship that ended. But when you look at the positive things you learned about yourself, how did you heal? What was good? What was not so good? And remember the not so good pieces. Remember those not so good pieces. Remember those not so good pieces. Because you may find yourself falling into one of those categories in the future, because those not so good pieces are parts that you want to improve in every new relationship. And last but not least, operate from a place of gratitude. And if you're operating from a place of gratitude, now again, this requires radical self-reflection. I know you're talking, and this is how we open our heart to love. This is a self-love principle we're talking about. So again, great question. I really appreciate it. So thanks so much. And if you found value in that question, hit that like button, okay, or that answer. I'd really appreciate it. Okay. All right. Miss B has a question. How can I begin to get my avoidant man to begin to engage in a deeper conversation? He's got to do personal development work. He's got to heal his shit. Chances are, if he hasn't healed his shit, he's just going to be closed off. So he's got to choose to do the inner work. One of my dearest friends is in a 7-year relationship, and she finally made an ultimatum. And they love each other deeply, but she made an ultimatum. If you're not going to work on your stuff, I'm done. I'm done. If you want a man to open up, then I would suggest that he has to go seek help to find out what closed him and maybe do couples work together. I would join a couples group. There's the Eden group out of San Diego, Eden, E-D-E-N, Eden World, which is a couples group. I would highly recommend getting involved with something like that to work on your stuff. Because if you don't, it's just not magic fairy dust isn't going to change this, Miss B. How can I begin to get my avoidant man? He's got to be the one who does it. You can't get him to do anything. Okay? All right. Thanks for that question, Miss B. I appreciate it. Julie Galipsi's in the house. Question: do you think anxious attachment in women cause them to be attracted to bad boys? I think they're attracted to bad boys because the bad boy represents, Miss B says, it's not going to happen. I'm sorry. Then you got to have to accept him the way he is, because if he doesn't heal the wound, Miss B, he's not going to open up. I mean, what do you think you're going to do? Jonathan, what is the magical phrase I can say to him to open his heart? I mean, you can lead by example. And by the way, please forgive the drama there. You can lead by example. You can lead by example. You can start sharing from your own life. You can start asking him deeper questions. You can do that. But I guarantee you, he's closed off for a reason. Okay? Coming back to Julie's question, how do you think an anxious attachment in women cause them to be attracted? I think you're attracted to bad boys, not you per se, Julie, but women are attracted to bad boys because they represent most likely a father, a primary parent in their life that was avoidant, emotionally unavailable. And well, bad boys are charismatic, so it has nothing to do with attachment style. An avoidant woman could be attracted to a bad boy. But bad boys are usually people who are non-committal, only seek the sex. They're emotionally avoidant, that sort of thing. So anxious people tend to be attracted to avoidant personalities, and bad boys tend to be avoidant. So it makes sense. All right, let's keep going here. Miss B has commented, and she said, I have been engaged in self-development since my 20s, and I'm in my 60s. Great deal of self-insight. So then the question is, why are you attracted to an avoidant person that most likely, if you've done a ton of self-development, why are you even with somebody who doesn't meet you where you're at? I'd be curious to want to know the answer to that. Janine wants to suggest reading 8 Dates together. That's certainly the book 8 Dates by Doctors John and Julie Gottman. Certainly that could be something you could do together. But again, the avoidant person isn't going to magically change just by reading a book, you know? So great questions. I really appreciate all of this. Wow, I've loved this conversation tonight. Diane wants to point out, start to pay attention when your heart starts to close with practice. You'll get better at feeling it in your body, so you can pause and decide to keep your heart open. Yes, we'll piggyback on that for that previous conversation. So I'm kind of curious, because none of you brought up the fact that I said I'm seeing somebody for the last 6 weeks. I was a little surprised. I was expecting to hear somebody make a comment about that, but I've met somebody who I really like. I don't want to say we're taking it slow, because it feels like on some level we are very well connected, but we're taking it slow from the vantage point of like, we're staying grounded in the moment of what's going on. We're staying grounded in the moment, what's going on, but we are having a great time getting to know each other. I really like this person. I'm inviting her to a party with friends over the weekend. Like I said, this is 6 weeks in, so we'll see what happens. There's no guarantee. We seem to share a lot of similarities between us. So Janet wants to point out, congratulations on meeting a wonderful lady. Have fun. I'm really grateful for that. So thank you so much. Julie says, I'm happy for you. Thank you. I appreciate it. All right, Laura, this will be our last question of the evening. One of your viewers suggested I was and am disorganized attachment style. I agree. I thought I was anxious, but did not match several things. Do you know about this? Never heard of it. So, you know, okay, I'm not the expert on attachment style, so I have what I've read up on it. So there is anxious, preoccupied, there is fearful avoidant, and then there is dismissive avoidant. Now, I believe within the fearful avoidant, there is a disorganized aspect to them that they might even flip-flop from anxious to avoidant. Most likely they had significant trauma in their childhood that caused them to stuff their emotions. So they both chased love and avoided love. That's what makes them disorganized. Usually what triggers it is when a disorganized person is with a more anxious person, they become avoidant. And when they're with an avoidant person, they become more anxious. That's the way I understand it. So one is, if this is the case for you, is to identify your love attachment style. Highly recommend reading the book Attached by Amir Levine and Rachel Heller. Highly recommend it. You might find some great insight in this book to help you work on your attachment style, to be present to it, to be aware, to understand that you are regulating your nervous system. You have the power to regulate your nervous system, Laura. And so I invite you to read these books and start working on yourself. Another great book would be, where is it? Read Dr. Stan Tatkin's book. I interviewed him on my channel, Wired for Love, How to Understand Your Partner's Brain and Attachment Can Help You Diffuse Conflict and Build a Secure Relationship. Julie wants to know, have you given her flowers? Actually, I did bring her sunflowers and a candle. The first time I stayed the night at her place, I did bring flowers and a candle. So yes, I have done that. And we've stayed in each other's respective places since then. So we'll see what happens. It's kind of interesting. I feel more grounded than ever before. I like this person. We just have so much fun together. We really have the same sense of humor, and we are both ridiculous at processing stuff. I mean, we unpack shit all day long. We talk about philosophy, psychology, human behavior, spirituality. We have mutual friends. It's kind of fascinating. Oh, it was 5555 a moment ago. So yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Julie says, it sounds like you're compatible. I think it could be that we are compatible. We shall see. Miss B says, I totally agree with the mixed attachment info. That's the way I learned it. So, but again, I'm not the expert at this, and you've got to do your own homework for yourself when it comes to attachment style. But Julie, thank you for the compliments about the relationship. I really appreciate it. I think she's really a special lady. You know, I'm grateful for all the women have been in my life. You know, the one I dated in the beginning of the year, she's a really fantastic woman. We've kept in touch a little bit. I'm still in touch with, briefly was in touch with my significant relationship that ended 2 years ago. And I'm still really good friends with my most significant relationship after my divorce. I'll be seeing her at a party this weekend. So I'm very blessed. So thank you so much. Laura says, thank you and congrats. Julie says, you sound compatible. I think we might be. All right, you know what, folks? We're coming up on an hour. I think this will be a great place to take a break. Did you find value in this conversation? If you did, I'd like to hear your thoughts. Post a comment below. I do my best to read them all in the first 24 hours. As always, if you find value in my videos, please hit that like button. Please share this video. Please subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell so you can be notified of new videos. And if you want to connect with me directly, there's links below. Schedule a discovery call with me to see if working with a coach is right for you. Check out my books. Check out my group called Midlife Love Mastery. Get my dating vows. Before that penis ever goes inside the vagina, get the dating vows listed below. And I'm going to wrap up this video as I always do. First off, give myself a big, gigantic Jonathan Barrick of self-love. I'm going to reach into the camera and give you a hug of love if that's okay. I'm asking you to turn to someone and pet a teddy bear, a pillow. Give it or them a hug of love, because hugs are a great source of love. And let's face it, we could all use more love in our lives. I want to thank Janet, Miss B, Jane, everybody who commented, Laura, Julie, Janine, Diane. Certainly, we got to give props to Debbie for the $20 super sticker. Thank you for the love. We appreciate it. Everybody, thanks so much for all your love. Wishing you all a super duper wonderful evening. Be well. Thanks. Bye-bye now. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.